I'm Erin Lawler-Patterson, the Goodness Chick. I'm an international speaker, podcaster, counselor, author, and proud part of the Mental Health News Radio Network. Join me on the journey of empowering you to live life with an overflowing cup rather than an empty one. We look at mental health, self-care, addiction, relationship, and wellness, where we use our challenges to fuel us rather than consume us. So it is a new day. Super excited for a new podcast episode. My guest today is Trevor Steinhauser, who's going to be chatting with me about this kind of mid-time that we're in when it comes to COVID and how it can have implications on our mental health. I know it's affecting so many of us with the different places that where you're coming from listening, different stages you have in your life, and talking about strategies and ways to work on our mental wellness. And so with that, as you're tuning in today, and if you're an avid listener of the Goodness Chick podcast, I want to say, first off, thank you very much. And if you're interested, I'd love to have you jump in and be a sponsor, donate, hit thegoodnesschick.com, or hop on my Goodness Chick Facebook page. So Trevor, as we rock and roll in today's episode, I want to say thank you for being here today.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity. This is going to be great.
It's good things. And so you were the host of the Stigmatized Podcast. You're described as a fearless, which I love, advocate for all things behavioral health, raising awareness, and you also are a blogger. So if I were to ask you, because August next month marks the 1-year anniversary for your podcast, what kind of was your catalyst for becoming a podcaster and focusing on specifically when it comes to mental wellness, mental health, behavioral health? What was it that was your fuel?
Well, again, thanks for having me. I've gone through it my entire life. I've struggled with mental health ever since I was a kid, and coming out of an addiction and a family business, I wanted to help other people. Yeah. I went on this mission to see if I could help even one person avoid the turmoil that I went through. So it became a mission of mine, and just spreading awareness, spreading hope, and listening to stories of others to squash the stigma that comes with mental health and addiction, anything to do with behavioral health. So yeah, that was the fuel, and just trying to let people know that it's okay to struggle. Right. Period.
It's kind of okay to not be okay.
Exactly.
And you know, I feel like this is such a perfect time. Timing is really everything, I think, when we're not in lockdown, right? We're also like not fully, I don't know if we'll ever get back to the term normal, whatever that is right now. So we have so many people, kids getting kind of ready and they don't know, going back to school, parents, am I sending my kids back to school? What the heck does that even look like? People that own businesses, to people that are, am I going to keep my job? There's so many layers and facets to this. I'm going to say almost like this ping pong time that we're at right now as a society. What kind of things would you say to somebody that might be feeling like, is there something wrong with me that I'm feeling this way? And is it strange because I'm feeling this way right now that maybe I might need help, or I might need somebody to talk to?
You mean just overall angst of
just overall, and maybe
this whole world that we're
anxiety before, but now it's kind of going through the roof, or I've never struggled with anxiety before, and all of this is kind of evoking some really uncomfortable feelings that none of us have been here before.
Right. And that is the truest form of the word of anxiety, the fear of the unknown. We have no idea what's going to happen. And I think that's the frustrating part for a lot of us, is we don't know what's reality, what the severity of this really is. Nobody has really told us that. We don't know who's right. So yeah, it's a scary time, and everybody's hunkered down, and they've got their families crawling all over them, and you can't get away. And even going to the store, I mean, it's a chore, it's a challenge. And so, yeah, but it's not, everybody is in the same boat. That's one thing we can all say, is we're all in this together. And as far as not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring. So we just got to hang in there and know that as long as we do our part, everything will work out. But yeah, to feel an immense amount of stress in a certain short amount of time, and this fear of the unknown we're all feeling it, and it's okay.
And I think reminding ourselves that we're all in this, because even though you have some states that are, I'm in Florida, and compared to like New Jersey or Connecticut, where we're at is much different, but it's still very strange, very much like we actually decided we're going to be homeschool. I'm going to be homeschooling my son this year. And I'm praying a whole lot as we go into this to maintain my sanity. But we made a decision because for us, him wearing a mask for a number of hours just isn't really feasible. So that to me, and I'm a clinician, I'm quite anxious and stressed out about it. But we're all in this together. And I think having that mindset is massive. And maybe even reaching out to somebody that like you might not be able to see right now. But this is where I think social media can be massive for us if we use it properly. Having weekly, FaceTime chats with a friend to encourage somebody, or even like I know a lot of therapists are doing, doing virtual stigmatized.
Sure. No, absolutely.
So, I mean, and this is where, thinking about, the name of your show, where, the Stigmatized Podcast, I do think for so many people, there is still, it's less than it was 10 years ago, that stigma of like, mental health, like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling such and such, and will somebody judge me? Or is there something wrong with me?
Right. And it's definitely better. You're right. But we still have a long way to go. And for some reason, mental health for people freaks people out. And,
Yeah.
and stigma kills, period.
Mhm.
It kills people. It keeps people from getting help. And when you're unable to look at your peer in your office or whatever it is, and let them know that you're struggling, and that go outside with me, let's chat for a little bit, I need to breathe, you take a breather. And we're just not there yet, but it's getting better. I've been talking a lot about mental health in business and the professional environment. That's starting to get a little bit some legs there. So it is evident, and every day, all the things that we do, and everybody knows somebody that is struggling with it. And it's just a matter of having some compassion and empathy and acceptance that this is a thing, and we all go through it at some point in our life in different stages.
Yeah, I do. And something that kind of hit me a few days ago, I was walking on the beach and I passed somebody, and we're like literally like there's nobody else on the beach, and I was like, "Hey," and they just kind of walked by me, and it hit me where I was like, we can use this time that we've been through and we're still going through. That's really weird, and feeling this like distance from people. We could use it to reconnect and kind of bring back our humanity a little bit, like making eye contact, saying hello, and letting, it's not having a full-fledged maybe conversation with somebody, but just connecting, eye contact. I think we've like distanced ourselves from that because we're so busy, being busy and overstretched. And I do feel like there's some people already that like have already thrown it out the window, right? That like this life lesson that this teachable moment of like, compassion, just like you talked about, kindness, and like a lot of us are just hurting and frustrated and struggling right now, and just letting somebody know that what, we're in this together, and it's going to be okay, but not doing it alone. I mean.
Oh yeah, but here's the deal: this has been shoved down our throats, and the mechanism is fear.
Yeah.
So the 24-hour news cycle, social media, with it is, everything is instantaneous, everything is in your face, and it is a fear-based model. So when you're walking on the beach with somebody, that person probably wants to say hi to you, but
Yes, true.
it's like, okay, I don't know what you might have.
Yeah, even though I'm
And
feet away.
right, yeah, and
Breathing in
it's
the other direction of the wind.
and where faces are covered up, our
Yeah.
faces are covered up, so it's already strange. And so it's fostering exactly the opposite of what we want to get across. I saw something the other day. It was a story of a lady who was starting to making clear masks. I mean, a cloth mask, but a clear thing so you can see your face because she works with kids that are deaf. But she said it changed all of her encounters because you can smile. So just blocking up all of this is not natural. Us
No, it's
being
not.
isolated, it's better than it was, but we might go back into isolation. Who knows? It just, for mental health, this whole thing, it's just it's a brush fire waiting to get out of control. So we have to, folks like yourself and myself, we got to get out there and just continue preaching the word and trying to let people know that this is not an insurmountable thing. We just have to be kind to each other.
Right, and I'm thinking now. I know you said you have 3 kids. They're downstairs. I've got my son, in his bedroom, and so we're like in this different. And I'm like, please don't interrupt. I'm doing a podcast, but we're in a different stage right now. And so what I think about is sometimes as adults, like, okay, we're stressed out. We're trying to figure things out. But how important it is to kind of take these moments right now to ask how our kids are doing, whether they're 3 years old or whether they're 25 years old or they're 35. Like this discussion maybe we've never had before. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, and it's like from the beginning of COVID to like where we're at now, that's going to be ongoing. Like we're in this transitional state. There's so many, I think, of college kids across the country. There's a whole lot that are not going back to college this semester. How do you feel about that? Or teachers going into the classroom, like asking your spouse, how are you really feeling? And just like you had mentioned, there is still this super weird stigma, like, we're okay, this is great. Like, this is a crazy thing we've been going through for the past 6 months. Like, there's no way you're 100% okay. There's no way. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like, so talking about it, and it's not about air quote fixing the person, but just letting them know and giving the green light. Like, how do you feel? And I'm going to tell you why I'm not letting you go, hang out with your 15 friends on a Friday night, like explaining that to our kids or explaining, all these different crazy changes socially that are having implications on our kids and on our spouses and our significant others and whatever else, our friendships. I think that dialogue is like crazy significant right now.
Oh, sure. So like right now, today in Kentucky, sports are now allowed to start. So
Okay.
practices, I'm sure there's restrictions of some kind, but I talked to a couple coaches the other day, and we're so excited to get everybody together in a room and talk to them because, like you said, they've been meeting individually, virtually, they've been meeting as a group virtually, but it's still, you're not getting the full effect.
Yeah.
And you're not getting the camaraderie and being able to look in somebody's eyes. And so that was a big step for them to talking through getting their groups because it's a numbers game. There's some kids in every group that may be taking this harder than others with other sorts of family dynamics going on and things. So I think it's good for the kids. I think it's good for the coaches to be able to get back into a groove. And then same thing with school. Even if we don't go back to school or even in the summer, there should be some avenue of letting kids get on a virtual call with a therapist or a school counselor or something like that. And again, 10 years ago, it didn't exist. It exists now in some areas. Like around here, we're starting to get mental health counselors in schools. So this is such a unprecedented thing that has happened. That's blown us all away with, nobody knows what to do and everybody's trying hard. I mean, these teachers they don't have a summer. I mean, they're working their hardest just trying to figure out how to educate our kids in the fall.
Yeah.
And plans change, and I don't know. It's crazy, but the virtual thing can only go so far. Like AA meetings, recovery meetings, 12-step meetings, whatever it is, there is no comparison to being there. Being in a virtual room with 12 people versus being there drinking coffee and looking at eye contact and hugging and crying and laughing, and it's just, there's no comparison for it. So even though it is a tool and it's all we got, we're not made to be isolated. That's the
No,
basic
it's
truth of
not
the whole
within our
thing.
genetic makeup.
No, we're social beings, and we need to be around each other. So the this is just a very difficult thing. But the longer this goes on, the the more mental health is going to rear its head after the fact, because this mental health thing won't pop up. I mean, it's popping up now, but it is going to be, when everybody gets back into the swing of things, we're going to see that there is people have been wounded that have, while this whole thing has gone on, and it's going to be the floodgates are going to open, and we're going to have a real crisis on our hands.
Hmm. I absolutely agree. I mean, I think when they made the decision, and it was staggered in different states in our country to shut down schools, my first thing was, you have so many kids on free lunch. How are they eating? Or kids who are going home to an abusive parent, or there is the electric was turned off because mom or dad lost their job, and they've been living this. The domino effect, just like you were referring to, is going to be just, I think, it's catastrophic, and it's going to be for years and years and years. And this is where one of the things I know we need to desperately do, just like you had referenced in your schools in Kentucky, like we need that mental health component like we never have before. I mean, I was a SAC counselor at a high school of, I guess it was 1,100 kids, and like, I mean, I would have kids at times waiting, like, just waiting for someone to talk to, and it was all day crisis. And it's like, it's heartbreaking when we're not, it's coming up in creative ways like we haven't been able to, we haven't been here before, but our kids, our people in the workplace, we need mental health assistance. And so it's kind of, we're regrouping and saying, how can we do better? And I do agree with you saying, getting the word out with what we're doing. But I know it's got to be so many people on the front lines just advocating and fighting and getting the word out to say, this is a need, not an option.
Sure. No, I mean, well said. I mean, the yeah, the school thing is just the tip of the iceberg, but this happens in all social settings. It's strange and an unprecedented time. And you talk about the I read a story where the people were excited because the domestic violence calls were down. Well, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a bad thing, because the abuser's at home,
Mm-hmm.
and no, the individuals taking that abuse can't get to a phone.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, there is tons of stuff going on behind closed doors. Everybody's home. It doesn't, like anything, being around each other, cooped up uh, I wouldn't say nothing to do, but that's not healthy either.
Yeah. Even if you're like in a health, your family's super healthy dynamics, right? Being squished like together for this, like it's just not healthy, and not seeing other people. And then you throw the wrench in there of the, unhealthy dynamics, and you think about the emotional abuse that's on the rise, physical, sexual, all, people just like struggling with anxiety. And now that, I don't even remember what the statistic was of people that are, day drinking or using substances during the day because they're home in a way that they haven't before. It's 10 o'clock, so it's technically 5 o'clock somewhere because you're home.
Right. And people going through addictions right now, relapse rates are out of control because, all they need is somebody to give them one sliver of why it's okay for them to drink. And then it's okay. You can't go to a bar. You have to stay home. So it's okay. Well,
I'm home.
I'm home. I'm going to drink.
Mm-hmm. I'm in my backyard. I'm not whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it is. It's so layered. I'm going to ask you. So for you personally, in these past few months, what has been like one of your biggest stressor that you faced personally going through COVID or mid-COVID, whatever the technical term is for where we're at right now?
Well, employment. I mean, I'm unemployed, so that's been a struggle. But just the isolation and being not having the outlets that I used to have, and But then again, I need to get creative and figure out another way to, and kind of take some responsibility instead of just sitting here and stewing and letting it build up by doing things I'm not used to doing, whether it's taking a walk or whatever. I know I can't go to the gym, so I need to do something else. So instead of just sitting here and stewing and waiting for that to happen, we have to get creative and take care of ourselves. It's our responsibility to take care of ourselves. And that's where this isolation can play mind tricks on you. But it's up to us to keep ourselves together, because it can go in the wrong direction fast. So I certainly have not done as much as I should as far as my self-care, but with restrictions and other things. But I think exercise is important. I certainly haven't done enough of that. So I've been caught up in this thing just like anybody else, because it gets it's very easy when you're isolating to get depressed and get anxious and worry about things you can't control. That's the other thing, is we cannot control any of this. I mean, we can do our part and wear masks and things like that, but as far as what the government's going to do, state by state, city by city, we gotta roll with it and keep up our end of the bargain, which is staying mentally healthy. Yeah. And it's difficult. Straight up. I mean, it's difficult when you're dealing with something you've never dealt with before.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of filling in the blanks in a way that we haven't before for our own mental wellness, and doing that, with our spouses, and doing that with our kids or other family members, and kind of building a shield, if you will.
Sure, yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's crazy train. But Trevor, I want to say thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely.
I also want to say, somebody's like, yo, I want to check out his podcast and your info. Where are they trekking to?
So stigmatizedpodcast.com is the website. And then you can find it searching Stigmatized on any podcast platform. And then Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, any of those, just search Stigmatized Podcast.
Awesome. Sounds good,
man. I appreciate the opportunity. This is great.
Awesome. Let's keep, working on the front lines and being fearless ambassadors for goodness. And for you guys that are tuning in, I want to say to you, I'm wishing you an abundance of peace, love, and goodness, my friends. If you enjoyed today's episode, there's a lot more encouragement and life-kicking strategies on goodnesschick.com. Have a great day, my friends.